I grew up by the sea and I would have never thought that it holds so many secrets. And actually, this secret prevents me from sleeping during the night lately, because while I was doing this research, constantly I was thinking, what is that thing lying at the bottom of the Baltic Sea? And that was discovered by the Ocean X team in the year 2011. Is it an UFO? Is it remains of ancient civilization? Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. You know that my intros are getting shorter and shorter because we have a lot to cover, and even like today, I think this video is gonna be a long one. If you are new here, hi, welcome. I will not advertise myself, just subscribe. We are discussing true crime mysteries from Scandinavia and also lately from Russia. And I've noticed that you've been passionate about mysteries, more specifically UFOs, so I am delivering! You think my video about ghost rockets in Scandinavia was crazy? Well, hold on, take a deep breath, because we're gonna literally dive very deep into the Baltic Sea and look into the discovery that some divers made in the year 2011, although the news just ran around the world around 2012. So what they did, they find something that they called the Baltic Sea anomaly, and it really looks something like UFO, something that we don't know. And I truly suggest you hold on until the end of this video, because we're gonna also discuss some really exciting and interesting theories about this thing, not only the story itself. So let's start. So I'm so excited about this video because I literally grew up by the Baltic Sea, like literally 2 or 3 kilometers from the coast of the Baltic Sea. That was where I spent my childhood and my teenage years. If you don't know the Baltic Sea, it's at the northern part of Europe and it borders with 8 countries, including Sweden and also Latvia, where I was born. Geographically, it's located in a very good position since it borders with so many countries. It has always been used by different ships like a sea route, and this is why it's alleged and believed that the bottom of the Baltic Sea holds a lot of shipwrecks from like historical times. And I'm not talking tens and hundreds, I'm talking thousands. It's assumed that the bottom of the Baltic Sea holds as much as 10 to 100,000 shipwrecks. Already mysterious, I know. What is interesting and curiously different about the Baltic Sea waters is that the saltiness level is quite low. That's because a lot of fresh water is coming in, like for example from the rivers, and also the water is super cold. I guess that's because the Arctic waters are coming inside, and these cold waters are serving as a refrigerator to whatever is down there at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. So whatever is there, it's better preserved. All of this sounds so exciting, and therefore the Baltic Sea bottom attracts a lot of divers and treasure hunters. I mean, I would consider to do it myself, but I swim like a hammer. And before you say like, you grew up by the Baltic Sea, how come you don't swim? I don't. Alright, I don't. The story of the Baltic Sea anomaly starts with 2 Swedish men, Dennis Asberg and Peter Lindberg. Both of them are adventurers. They both go on underwater expeditions. They investigate wrecks, submarines, and both of them found this company called Ocean X Team to do their work like that officially. So actually in the year 1997, in one of those expeditions underwater, when they were investigating a shipwreck, they came across some old champagne bottles. It was estimated that those bottles were actually around 100 years old, and later on they were sold in an auction for 20K each. I literally have to learn to swim and then to dive. Year 2011, the Ocean X team, when I'm saying Ocean X, you usually assume that it's Dennis and Peter. They were on their usual travel on the Baltic Sea, looking for some treasures. And it wasn't a successful day, and in fact they were thinking, maybe we should go back to the shore. But before that, Peter suggests that, well, there is this sonar image, it's quite blurry. Before we go away, let's just check that. Might be a shipwreck down on that spot. They put their equipment in the water to see more specifically what is that they're seeing in this blurry image. So this sonar scanner goes down, and after an hour or so they see this picture on their screens. And Asberg recalls he had this very weird feeling when he saw this image. I quote, he said, "I got goosebumps all over my body. I have never seen anything like that." And Peter even jokes, "Look, we have found an UFO." Later, this joke will actually have a meaning, so bear with me. The shape of this object is so odd that both of the professionals immediately conclude that is not a shipwreck for sure. So now they become curious. They want to know, how big is this thing? And the measurements show that it's enormous. It's like 60 meters or 180 feet in a diameter. What is weird that this object has almost like perfect round shape, and on it you can see that there are like ramps, stairways, some other structures that in most cases, no, quite surely could not be made by nature. Just look at it. As far as I understand, they did not dive in on that day because they were on a low budget boat, and also like the depth that they had to cover in order to reach that object was really deep and it would endanger their health. So I do understand that. So what they did, they took the image to themselves and went back to the shore to investigate it like in detail and try to understand it. Since Peter and Dennis are not sure about what is that they have on this image, they decide among themselves that they're gonna keep it a secret. That just proves that guys are serious. They're not after some scandals or some media attention. They want to understand what it is before they go like publicly out with an announcement that they have found something crazy that they cannot explain. So days pass, weeks pass, they look at the image, they try to find some kind of logic explanation to this, but they cannot. It was then when Dennis decides that, well, they most probably need some help from some experts, and he decides that they should probably go publicly out and talk about this image on like a local Swedish newspaper, and he waits for somebody to come out and maybe help with like suggestions and some expert opinion. And I'm literally on the side of Ocean X Team's decision to go public, but still many people do think that this wasn't the right decision for them to go public and talk about this. They thought they were just seeking for an attention, which I do not agree. I guess they were just waiting for some independent experts to come forward, because once it's out on the media, you cannot get it back, and people will just pay attention to that and maybe reach out. And history has showed that if you go straight to the government's authorities or influential people with this kind of information, they just tend to cover up all of these things, and then it's just a secret that later results in nobody knowing that things like that are happening. Just saying, my opinion, don't come after me. Year 2012, after Asberg goes public on a Swedish newspaper about this image and the thing that they have found, this news piece is picked up by UK tabloid Daily Mail, and the message about anomaly found on the Baltic Sea bottom goes like all around the world. After this, the rumors start to spread, like some experts say that it's an UFO vehicle, some say it's a portal to another world, some compare it to Atlantis or Stonehenge, like you just name it. Imagination runs wild. And of course, the guys from Ocean X Team, they get a lot of attention. They get messages, calls, emails. People want to know what's down there at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. And of course, this also attracts investment, and this helps Ocean X Team to prepare for their expedition. And for the first time, they're about to dive into the deep waters of the Baltic Sea to see that object in real life. For us, like normal people, it seems like, oh, just go dive in and give us some answers. No, guys, these kind of expeditions, they are super pricey, and they're also very dangerous to the lives of the divers. You have to be a professional. It was even estimated that to make this kind of expedition for this one dive, it will cost like around 20k euros for one day, because you need to have professional divers, all the equipment, all of the stuff that they are using, it costs. Nevertheless, thanks to all of this attention, they collected the money and they were prepared to go on this first expedition to see that thing in the real life. What they had a 3D scanner which would scan the bottom of the sea, and later on they could make like a 3D image of the object laying there. And they also had a sonar scanner which would cover like larger areas and provided like 2D images. Oh, I feel so smart explaining this, and actually don't understand what I'm explaining. Sorry. Anyways, but what they noticed that in many situations, whenever they were around that area or scanning or doing stuff, this equipment would now and then fail. I don't know if it's coincidence, but it just happened. And later it was also stated as a fact. So whenever they were approaching also in the future the object, there were some technical problems. When they reach the spot where the object is lying, they first make this like experimental dive with the robot. So just to make sure that there's no radiation and stuff, so that the divers, like people, can actually go down there and it's safe. So the results come back, all safe, divers can go down. Just bear in mind, it's not just go down, take pictures and come back. The depth is so deep that the divers are risking their lives. The divers have to go down in the sea as deep as 80 meters. And what is also very interesting is that the results came back that the water temperature just above this object that they are supposed to investigate, the temperature is below zero, like -1 degree Celsius. It's super cold and it's super weird because, like, if you're below zero, you're supposed to be ice. How is it even possible? Down there, it's pitch black, and the divers do manage to swim on it a little bit and around it and gather some samples that they can bring back on the shore that they could investigate further. Stefan Hogebon, he was like the main diver of this expedition, and he was described as the badass diver, like he's the guy who would dive the places where nobody else dares to do that. So he came back on the ship and he shared his impressions, and he said that at first, like, the object surface looks like it's made from a concrete, but when he touched it, it was black and looked like it was burnt. What Stefan also mentions, and it can also be seen on the images, is that all of the edges are straight and there are like places that resemble like a wall, and he said that it looks like it has been shaped. So he's like indicating that it looks like more like a man-made rather than nature-made. And the most confusing thing is that on this object there's also a hole. It's like 2 meters wide and it also has like a frame around it. Stefan also mentions that he noticed formation of rocks, like they were put in a ring form, which is also kind of weird. And like after this dive, he looked quite puzzled. Remember, he was referred to as the badass, and he was puzzled. And he said that I went down to get some answers, but you don't get any answers. You just get more questions. Just go down there and get those answers. Typical Coach Potato replied to that. Well, as I said, it costs money. And also the Oceanics team was facing some weather conditions. And also, as I said, the equipment was failing for, I don't know what was the reason, maybe just related to this anomaly. And the money was over that they had for this expedition, so they came back to the shore with those new images, with experiences from the divers, and also with the samples that they collected. They take the samples and images to scientists. An expert in underwater archaeology looks at the images and, according to the sharp edges and wall-like shapes, assumes this could be man-made. We will get to that later. Marine geology expert analyzed the sample of the black piece of rock. He concluded that it has volcanic content. This is not something that could be found in the Baltic Sea basin. Can this volcanic rock be explained by something that could have been fallen from the sky in the sea, like a meteorite or something? Well, the scientists are saying if this would be the case, then maybe there would be a larger impact. There would be also like a crater or something, and this would be more visible also on the maps. So he kind of excluded that option. Scientists also assume that this volcanic rock could have been brought there on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, where it's very unusual, by the glaciers. Which makes sense, but still there are so many questions unanswered. How about the shape that really looks like it's not naturally made? Also, the scientists suggest that it would be very wise to take some samples also underneath this object and also from the middle, because like the volcanic rock could be just the cover like layer of all of it. It would be interesting to know what's underneath it, what's on the bottom of it. And now the saddest part of the story, which really makes me angry, and after that we're gonna move to the theories, so bear with me. Now, after these samples were analyzed and the scientists said that it's like a piece of volcanic rock, the media who like made the spotlight on these guys and made it possible for them to go on that expedition, they took those guys also down in a couple of seconds. Not sure which media actually started this, but I watched the documentary and there they were reading Fox News, so maybe they were one of those who started this thing. So they picked up this message that the samples were volcanic rock, and therefore they made an article that all of this thing about the Baltic Sea anomaly is a hoax, and what that we are seeing down there according to the samples is just simple piece of rock. And of course, what you feed to the people via media, they eat and they assume that's truth. They don't use their brain just to put two and two together and understand that this is not a hoax. The shape, and it's volcanic rock, which doesn't belong to the Baltic Sea bed. Just think logically. But, I mean, it happened what happened. Nobody believed the oceanics team anymore, and everything just went down from that moment. But the mystery is still unsolved. And the following discoveries will prove that. Yes, there will be more confusing information around this anomaly, so bear with me. It's gonna be mind-blowing. And I wanted to add this, I hope nobody will come after me, but that's just my opinion. It felt like there were some people or somebody for whom it was very convenient to just gaslight and shut down oceanics team activities in regards to this Baltic Sea anomaly. Like all the major independent channels and media were talking about them as a hoax now, and after that they couldn't receive any money from investors. None of those people or companies were giving money to them anymore, so they were on their own, and they also now had a bad reputation. And when there is no money, there is no expedition, there are no answers, and everything just shuts down. And what is more painful, they were ready to prove that they have their own truth, that there is something underneath those waters, that anomaly, and they didn't have any means to do that. So what they did were they just used their own money from their expeditions with treasure hunt and whatever. And they also had their little community who still believed in them. And one of those guys, independent followers or supporters, was also an expert in creating 3D pictures. And he picked up all of the information that they got from this 3D scanner they were using on the diving expedition. And he, after a while, managed to mend all of the faulty images and created the real picture, the 3D picture of the anomaly down in the Baltic Sea.
1,500 meters south of the object, there's a small underwater mountain divided by a canyon. Leading off of this underwater feature is a ridge that runs all the way up to the object. 3D image also shows another ridge heading towards a second anomaly. When studying the side scan image, the resemblance to the first anomaly is striking, which could mean that they are in some way connected.
This brings us to anomaly number 2. Yes, there is more. As I promised, this is exciting. This goes even further. And as I also mentioned, they were collecting their own money and trying to have enough to have at least some further expeditions in regard to the Baltic Sea anomaly. And at one point, they have gathered enough money to have this low budget expedition to see more of this anomaly number 2. But the thing is that, again, the equipment started to fail. Whenever they were approaching the place where the anomaly 2 is located, the equipment started to fail, especially the compass. It just failed. And I don't know if it's related to the anomaly, but it just somehow feels suspicious, because it also happened when they were with the anomaly 1. So there's a pattern there. Anyways, but they didn't give up on that expedition, so they couldn't see the anomaly number 2, but they somehow managed to notice another thing nearby anomaly 2, and it was described as something that resembled the foundation of a house. It was a rectangular shape, clean lines, angles. It was 13 meters wide and 25 meters long. Is this anomaly number 3? So, now that you know all of these weird things, let's discuss theories. No, I must say that I'm not really leaning towards the extraterrestrial theory, although I'm not excluding it. So the Oceanics team has lately become very active on social media, and Dennis has started a podcast where they discuss a lot of things also related to the Baltic Sea anomaly. I was listening to them, and they mentioned this very interesting thing that caught my attention, and I think it's quite logic. They were talking about Oumuamua. I don't know if you've heard about it, and I pronounced it like terribly, sorry. This Oumuamua, I hate to pronounce it, it came into our solar system in the year 2017. So it was a meteorite or asteroid. Not sure, even scientists are still arguing and not sure about what it really was. This thing came close to the Earth, and at one point it started to slow down and then accelerated and quickly flew away, which was kind of weird behavior from this kind of thing that we have assumed to be meteorite or asteroid. Anyways, none of the flying stones like meteorites, asteroids, or whatever would not act like this Oumuamua was acting. There was a clear sign of intelligence because this acceleration and slowing down, it showed that it had some kind of intellectual capability. So this is why scientists up until nowadays are thinking that this might be also something extraterrestrial. Where is this bringing us? So I'm just thinking, and also they discussed this on the podcast, that we are used to see flying saucers and extraterrestrial as something that's coming in a shiny like vehicle, but maybe they look like stones or something, like hidden under the shape of stones, just to have their spy game in a higher level so that we don't think that they are looking at us. Let's say Oumuamua had intelligence and it was kind of like extraterrestrial, then maybe that thing on the bottom of the Baltic Sea is also one of those things. Like another theory that just makes sense in my head, and I'm kind of leaning towards it. Have you heard about a man named Graham Hancock? If you haven't, please check out. He's the one who's pushing forward the theory of ancient civilizations. So pick up a book written by him, or just simply watch a Netflix documentary, or watch Joe Rogan's Experience podcast with him. You will understand what I'm saying. Like, this guy, he's up to something huge here, and this might be a little part of it. Because if we consider that the theory of ancient civilizations is true, and to which I highly believe, then this Baltic Sea anomaly could be just a little piece of puzzle that belongs to this big picture of ancient civilizations theory. I mean, everything that's happening around this Baltic Sea anomaly clearly shows that this should be investigated further. The questions should be answered. And what irritates me the most is that the scientific community, in most cases, are just sitting like hands crossed in front of them and not doing anything. They should be there. They should be knocking on the door of Oceanics team and saying, we want to help because we have the expertise, and our expertise could help to get the answers that we need to know. Where are the archaeologists? Where are the underwater experts? Where are the people with the high-level equipment? Why aren't they offering the Oceanics team to use that? Because, you know, we might be on the verge of a big discovery. This might simply change everything that we know about our history. I might get a lot of backlash from saying this, but in my opinion, and from what I've heard, like in a lot of podcasts, and I watched some videos also talking about that the scientific community, it's really tight, and they don't really like to challenge the commonly known history. It's like, there are facts, they stick to them, and they don't even assume that there might be something wrong or something more, like out of the box. So they stick to that. and they don't go out of their own like box and their own community, and they don't allow like alternative things to come in that are challenging them, which is wrong in my opinion. By saying this, I truly suggest you watch the Joe Rogan's podcast with Graham Hancock that I mentioned, and also I recently listened to Joe Rogan's podcast with Jimmy Corsetti, and you will understand what I mean by saying all of this. And especially watch a YouTube channel called Bright Inside, and there's a video about Atlantis and Sahara Desert. Please watch that, I'm gonna link it below. It'll blow your mind, and I think this Baltic Sea anomaly could be a little piece also that belongs to that story. Now back to the Ocean X team. What are they doing now? So they have become very active on social media, which in my opinion is the right way how to spread the message. They have created a documentary that I watched also. They have Facebook groups. They're active on Instagram. They have also a Facebook group where they discuss things. So there are people who know, who are involved, but of course this should be done in a larger extent. And recently they have also started like a documentary series. I haven't started to watch that, but I should probably, because it's on the updates that they have been doing this summer. If you are really into this, you should probably follow them and also check what they're doing. We want some answers. We surely want some answers. And I'm not rich. Hopefully one day, but if you are rich and watching this video and you are curious about this world and what's hidden at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, and in general you want answers, I highly suggest you invest in Ocean X team. Just saying, because we all want to know, we all want to know. That being said, I will post all of their social media also at the description box. Let's just keep our hands on the pulse and see what happens next, and hopefully in future I have something more to tell you about that. Anyways guys, it was a very big pleasure to dive into this story, and I was really happy to share this one with you. Hopefully, I know that I'm just a small YouTuber, but maybe that's just a drop in the ocean, and maybe more people will learn about that and talk about that. That's the main purpose why I'm actually here and why I'm actually talking about that. Let me know what you think about the Baltic Sea anomaly. Write down in the comments your ideas, your theories. Also write down if you knew about this thing, because in many cases with these mysteries related to ancient history especially, people don't even know they exist because nobody talks about them. So here we are, we're talking about that. Spread the message, share this video with whoever would love to know this, whoever would be interested to listen to this. That being said, stay curious, see you next time. Hey guys, just quickly popping in, I wanted to say that I just got an idea. So sometimes down in the comment sections, especially under the videos where I'm talking about UFOs or mysteries, you write like, oh, I saw once there was a cigar shape, something flying in the sky and stuff. So here it is. I want to know if you would be happy to share those things with me. If you have like pictures or videos of something that you have seen, send them down on this email and I'm gonna look into that. Most probably I'm gonna put it on my video, look at it, and I'm gonna react and we're gonna discuss. I think it would be fun. So send your stories, send your videos and photos about interesting encounters or mysteries, anomalies on this email. See ya!